Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is David Tim. I'm the chair of the Tenant Landlord Commission, and I'm calling to order the second attempt at a January meeting for 2024. Today, I believe we have quorum, so I'm just going to quickly run through roll call. We've got John present, Aaron, Kristen, Andrew, Griffin, and myself. And then I think, can you admit Kira to the?
Yes. Yes.
And Kira is joining us virtually as well. Today, I think we were going to start with public comments and then move to the approval of the meeting minutes. So the way that it works is you have 3 minutes. You can stand up or sit down, whatever you like, and then we'll respond, maybe ask you questions depending on what you have to say.
And that provides a forum for grievances regarding individual tenant landlord. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
My name is Ian Bright. I'm a tenant of a building off the street, the Reserve at Clarendon Center at 3000 Washington Boulevard. Been there for a couple of years. The building is owned by Equity Residential, a major real estate firm nationally. And starting October 16th, they started major renovations of the lobby area and all of the common spaces that are indoors of the building. During this period, we didn't receive any advance notice, and to my knowledge, none of the tenants received advance notice. It's a large building. And they basically, as we signed our leases, I signed my lease in May, and then the construction, the first notice we received was directly after they were permitted for the construction in September. Ahead of that period, there was no advance notice of the changes. There was no proration of rent, no accommodations made in any capacity. I personally live on the second floor, and the second floor is directly above the construction site. There has been continuous drilling throughout the day. I personally work from home. I can't work from public space working for our government. So haven't had an opportunity to really avoid the noise in any meaningful way. Have had multiple conversations with the leasing office of the building with sort of various levels of response, including just, kind of shirking responsibility and also sort of limited accommodations that have been made earlier ahead of the holidays. So in my view, and from what I've heard from other tenants in the building, they felt like potentially the lease was misconstrued to us, that we should have had advance notice of these changes, given the market value just being reduced of these units as the construction is underway, and we don't have access to these amenities. And these amenities, we were charged an amenity fee at the beginning of the year, and they will not be available for a full 6 months of the total 12-month lease that it was signed. So I'll stop there.
Any questions from commissioners?
Is there a construction addendum in your lease?
Not that I could find. I looked through it this afternoon. I wasn't able to identify any construction addendum, but pending any further action, I would certainly look more thoroughly.
Yeah. Do you pay amenity fee whenever you renew your lease?
Yes, so $100 per person for the amenity fee. I was charged that during the previous term, and then again when I re-signed in May.
$100 per person on the lease?
Yes.
So I'm a landlord, and I manage multiple properties, and I have one under renovation right now. I just had another one that finished its renovation. It took 11 years. We did it while the building was fully occupied. I think failure to give notice is a shame. It's not the right way to do business. I can tell you, having managed multiple properties with doing lots of renovations, I'm sure Aaron would tell you the same. So often we aren't in control of when it's going to start, and we are a for-profit business, and so it'd be very hard to tell people, oh, we're going to start something, when unfortunately our county can hold us up for anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. So if we started telling everybody that something was coming, we'd have a pretty hard time maybe renting some apartments. So that's just from the landlord perspective. But there's, once things were underway or very close, you can tell through the permitting process where you stand and how close you are. So that's a real shame that they didn't do a better job of that. And secondly, I don't know of any landlord, and Aaron, you can correct me, and I'm sure that Ryan would tell you the same. I don't know any landlord who gives an abatement for times when we're doing improvements to the property. It's just not what we do. I'm not telling it's right or wrong, but they're not doing anything that any other landlord wouldn't do in my 22 years in property management would do. However, I do believe that they should work hard to make some accommodations. For example, when we were renovating our lower level, we had some apartments on the upper level floors where we hooked up Wi-Fi. It wasn't luxurious, it was nothing fancy, but, we had some old desks, we moved some things around, and we made sort of a shared workspace where people could go and work to help people move, because we were renovating while it's occupied. So, we might be renovating the apartment next door to you, above you, and below you at the same time, just based on circumstance. And so we tried to make accommodations, and I think that that's reasonable to expect. But I keep going looking at you.
Yeah.
I have 5,400 apartments, and I have 7 vacant in the whole portfolio right now. So it would be very hard for me to have be able to make too many accommodations. The other thing is that you might talk to them about, you can't work outside of your apartment, so never mind.
I can work in my office, but for example, yesterday, OPM closing down, I have to give senior briefings and am fighting with drilling noise when trying to talk to government officials. So, challenge.
If you're talking to your neighbors, Equity owns a lot of buildings, manages a lot of buildings in the area. They might be able to make accommodations for them to work at a sister property in their shared amenity space. Doesn't work for you, but if you're talking to others, it might work. So probably not what you want to hear, but at least they're not doing anything totally out of character, maybe, with landlords, except maybe better communication.
You mentioned that they attempted to make some minor accommodations. What were those?
So they told us that basically, we had complained regarding the amenity fee, and they said, well, it was basically like outlined in the terms. So we kind of took issue with that, and then at the holidays, they had told us, well, we could make accommodations in terms of moving you into another unit on the higher floor, given part of our complaint was, a major part of my complaint was the noise level. However, in my understanding, and when I talked to them yesterday, after coming back after the holidays, didn't want to move while visiting family and so on and so forth, that accommodation is no longer available. That's my understanding. So.
Okay, so they did offer you another apartment that was further away, but then it was rented out.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
I do think.
Go here first, Andrew.
Oh, sorry.
Have you spoken to anyone other than the staff on the property? Have you spoken to higher level management?
They haven't been able to put me in touch with anybody in higher level management, and they really shrug responsibility in terms of knowing. They told us that they knew a week before they received the permit, which I find a little hard to believe, and that, just looking at the permitting requirements in terms of the really comprehensive list of things that the county requires for permitting, I find it hard to imagine a property manager wouldn't have some advanced knowledge of that permitting process at least being taken, right? Or like you said, the progress that they may have to a certain degree. But
I will just also add, as a former resident of an Equity building that was undergoing renovations, at least when I signed my lease at my building, they did have a construction addendum that basically outlined, by signing this, you understand the building will be under construction for at least the next 12 months, or at least until your lease. Like, there will be noise. We take no responsibility for the noise. It's possible that if the property manager really didn't know about these permits, that they didn't add that, but that would be something to just confirm, since I know I did have that in my Equity residential lease, so they're typically pretty clear in outlining.
They use the same lease that we do. It's a national lease that they have, and I'd be very, all of their leases probably have it in there. But what I was going to say is, I would ask them to, at the very least, abate your amenity fee. Like that's what we've done in the past. And if your common areas are like your club room or your gym, for instance, isn't able to be used, that's the very least they can do. That's what that amenity is supposed to be used for. And I agree, like horrible communication to residents, that's absolutely horrendous. They did know a week before, well before that. I know they did because that's just general contracting. I know they did that before, but equity makes it impossible for residents to contact anyone beyond the property. I would go to their website though. You can very easily find contacts. Equity is a huge national company. They're one of the biggest in our space. But I wouldn't talk to anybody except for the property manager in that office because only they can help this. And they're the ones who can put you in touch with someone else above them, like the regional manager or even above that, if you want to like take it that far. But I agree with what you said, like they're pretty protected, you know, as are we. They're not doing anything wrong. They're trying to make the space better. It just, unfortunately for residents, it sucks, you know, while they're going through all the noise.
And maybe one more question.
Yeah, please.
Just in terms of the noise level, just reading through the county code, it sounds to me like there is some continued construction noise above 90 decibels that could be considered not in keeping with the expectations of the code. If that level is breached within our apartment when they're physically drilling into our floor, is there any expectation there that they would not do that type of construction even within the daylight hours that are prescribed?
You're saying that you've measured the noise?
I haven't measured, but if I did measure and it did clear that threshold.
I'm not sure precisely what the county ordinance says.
Well, that will be an issue for code enforcement. They can send the inspectors to verify that the noise level is within parameters, but if they're drilling near your apartment or it's close to you, it will be hard for them to pinpoint the problem. It's they will only consider general noise in the surrounding areas.
Okay.
Mostly the noise ordinances are for like noise that coming from the route, from venues. That's what they can control more easily. But the construction during the day, it's basically free game.
2 questions. Do they start at an unreasonable hour? Like, are they starting at 6 a.m.?
They're starting around 8:10, usually 8:15, which I understand is after the 7 a.m. Requirement. So,
Okay.
and it does cause like physical vibration in the apartment as well. So it's certainly loud.
Is it in the garage or is it the?
It's in the lobby level. So we're directly above the lobby level, and they're basically renovating, and they're running wire straight through the roof.
And did they give an approximate timeline? Because is this like a year, or is this like it's going to be done in 4 weeks and therefore?
So they said it was going to be done in, I believe, 3 months. And they pushed it back to 6 months. And they told us the drilling would be done in the first month, and it's continued for 4 months. So.
Yeah, I would say code enforcement. I mean, that's something that we deal with as well. Whenever we're doing renovations and projects like that, I would definitely contact them because they will come to the property. They'll measure the sound, and they'll be there and they'll watch even what hours they operate. If they get there too early, if they're sitting too late, like that's a really good place as a resident to start. Yeah. And
too early is 7 a.m., right? Before 7 a.m. is.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do it before 9 because residents, you know, I think that's like their time before then. We don't do anything after 5.
The starting time, I think it's 5.
It's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5
a.m.
I
A lot of construction companies start early.
I don't know if that's true.
That break late light.
In a residence?
We're at 7 on the county.
Yeah, I think it's 7 when you're doing it in a residential space that has
I
people
think
living
roads
around
and
it.
stuff start at 5 a.m.
Yeah, we don't start till 8:30.
Yeah, I mean, just a respectable landlord would say 8 o'clock or 8:30, 9 o'clock is probably the best time.
And they said 8:30 have been starting well before 8:30, but that's kind of a minor.
Is it just during the work week, or is it?
No, it's just during the week.
Okay.
Not during the weekends.
Okay, well, hopefully this has been helpful for you. As far as next steps, I think that I'm not sure if my email's on the website, but you can reach out to Rolda, who's our staff liaison. She's not here today, unfortunately, but her email's on the website, or to Hector, and we can put you in touch with code enforcement or other resources as necessary. Obviously, if something changes that you think, you know, modifies sort of what is in bounds, unfortunate but in bounds as far as what you're dealing with, then we can, look into it. But, I think you've got a pretty good perspective and some good advice from our excellent landlords.
You can put with me and I'll have a card on me. I was thinking, but I'd be willing to help them.
Yeah.
Outside of here if I have to, if I can.
I'll have, I'll give you Hector and Rolda's email, and then we'll put you in touch with, Aaron and whoever else wants to.
Just however I can help you, I'll try to help you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Also,
all of you.
I wasn't here for the explanation of the clinic, but I think you got the gist. If you haven't talked to your neighbors who also live in the building, there's power in, a collective voice to management. So I've had success with that in the past and would recommend.
A large number of the tenants. At least on the 8th floor, during the legal action, I thought this sounded like a better forum before the legal action.
Yeah, we're the step before that.
Yeah. All right, well, while he's writing that down, one other thing that I was thinking about is that it never hurts to figure out who the foreman is on the job. I'm not saying buy coffee or donuts, but, cordiality will go a long way, because they might be able to tell you, or they should be able, they know what's coming next. Like, hey, are you guys going to be drilling in this area? What time are you going to drill? There's a protocol. I mean, everything has to happen in a sequence when you're building something, when you're tearing it down and when you're building it. So if you're trying to schedule your own meetings, or you're trying to decide, well, when am I going to take my lunch break? If you get to know the foreman or whoever, he or she might be able to say, this is what our schedule is.
Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Great. Well, don't feel obligated to stay longer, but you might, we've got some interesting presentations. So
I'm
it's up to
on
you.
the Zoom, but I'm going to run back to
Enjoy your weekend.
All right. I think we have approval of the meeting minutes now, and hopefully you've taken the minutes online beforehand. What are we approving today? We're approving like a couple.
Yeah, I think the notes from December and
I think it bound back to October.
Yeah.
So October through December, are there any changes from any of you? Okay, great. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for October, November, and December of 2023?
So moved.
All right, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. And then we're going to begin with our presentation on the Arlington Landlord Partnership by Reginette. Did I pronounce that correctly? Reginette? Okay.
Yes, you did.
Good.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Named after my father. As you guys could guess that, Reginald. Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Daniels from CPHD asked if I would come and give you guys a quick overview of the Arlington Landlord Partnership Program that we have at DHS. I am, of course, Reginette Osby. I am the Housing Location Analyst in the Housing Assistance Bureau at DHS, and also a realtor. And so I do have a little background in housing. But if I could go on and share my screen, I can get started here. If you guys have any questions, I may not see you. I think I may, but either you can just yell at me or just
We'll
I
call
can
it out.
answer. Yeah, can answer at the end. So the Arlington Landlord Partnership, AKA better known as the ALP, is what we call it. So it was created, established in early 2014. A housing committee was formed and they were trying to come up with a 10-year plan to end homelessness. And when they got together, what they noticed is that a lot of the program participants were being denied. And what they saw is that most people were being denied because of poor credit, poor rental history, and criminal background. So the ALP, so they did a little research, and the ALP was pretty much modeled after the Landlord Liaison Project out of Seattle, Washington. So this is pretty much how we came up with the ALP. It's pretty much just like this program in Seattle. And it pretty much is comprised of the Arlington County Housing Assistance Bureau, Arlington Human Services, nonprofit agencies, landlords, and property managers. And of course, the goal of the ALP is to increase the availability of rental housing for homeless individuals. And of course, for folks with high leasing barriers. So even though it was established in 2014, we really didn't kick off the ALP until July 19, 2017, when we housed our very first ALP client. So the ALP, the work group, usually meets on the third Thursday every month. And what we do is we track referrals and tenant progress. We maintain the data. We review risk claims, and we just talk about ways to enhance the ALP program. You know, how we can advocate for our members and other issues like that. We have 4 landlord partners. APA, AHC, Wesley Properties, and Paradigm. So what we expect of the landlords is that we have a MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and we outline a criteria that we look for them to follow. So, and we also expect them to communicate any tenancy issues to us. And we also expect them to follow the ALP protocol when it comes to submitting the risk reduction claim form for damages. The agency partners that we have is DHS's PSH department, DHS's homeless prevention program, Path Forward, which is formerly ASPAN, Doorways, Friends of Guest House, Bridges to Independence, New Hope Housing, and our fiscal agent, which is Independent Center of Northern Virginia. And what we expect of our agency partners is to provide housing-focused case management. It's definitely as long as they're in the program. Rapid rehousing, our shelter partners, they usually provide case management from 3 to 12 months. Our homeless prevention program usually provides case management from 4 to 12 months. And permanent supportive housing is ongoing as long as the client remains in the program. And usually we ask that our agency partners respond to any tenancy issues within 48 hours. So what we do at the ALP work group is, like I said before, we monitor the performance of our ALP agency partners. We make sure that when tenants move out, that they the agency partner submits the risk reduction claim form to them in a timely manner so that they could get the form back to us so that we can process it. And we, of course, meet monthly, discuss any outstanding issues. We discuss fair housing, tenant laws and rights, and ways that we can continue to enhance the program. This is just a little data for you guys. The ALP to date has received 153 referrals since inception, and there are currently 28 active ALP clients. 72% of the referrals that we've received have been approved. 28% were denied, but what I've seen with the denials is that most of the denials occurred when the program first started. There has been a decrease in denials. However, we still get those, but usually once I get involved and provide some advocacy, usually we turn those around to approvals. There has been 16 claims since inception, and we've spent about $23,000, a little over $23,000 in claims. The average claim is about $1,458. This just gives you, this is the ALP criminal background screening criteria that's used. So, whenever a client has a felony, this is what we expect the landlords this is like a guide for them to see. The highlighted charges are usually an automatic denial, and that's homicide, kidnapping, sex-related offenses. Usually those clients are denied right away. Sometimes we get some landlords who may accept them, but mostly it's usually private landlords that we work with that would take these clients in. Misdemeanors are waived. Poor credit, prior evictions are waived. Usually, if there is an eviction, the landlord usually wants to see it either paid off or at least a payment plan established. With the risk reduction fund, so that's all about is we have 3 funds, and it's the Community Development Fund, the Arlington Community Foundation, and DHS. And landlords may request up to $3,000 for damages to the unit. And they can also collect for unpaid rent or lost rent due to vacancies. We give them up to 90 days after the tenant vacates the unit. There has been circumstances where we had to give them a little bit longer time, but we look at that on a case by case. And only tenants who were referred to the property are eligible for those funds. And this is just a sample of what the reduction claim form looks like that is immediately provided to the landlord once the tenant moves out. And this is just my information and Jennifer Daniels, the co-chair, my other co-chair. This is our information, and that's it. You guys have any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I realize you can't actually see me.
Sure.
That was really interesting. Commissioners, any questions?
No question. I had no idea this existed.
Me neither.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So I didn't know it existed either.
Yeah, it's been around even before I was with the county. I've been with the county almost 5 years. So yeah. Since I've gotten involved, I'm kind of trying to, get that awareness out there, beef it up a little, make it known. Don't feel bad. We have our landlord partners. A lot of them do not know about the ALP.
The partners don't know about it.
A lot of the partners do not. We just had a meeting with AHC last month, and we said from a 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the ALP? And they said a 1.
Okay.
And it's been around. A lot of the folks are aware, but there's a lot of changes and, turnover in the leasing offices. So they don't, we're trying to get them to add it to their onboarding process so that people are aware of the ALP. But what's happening still is I'm getting more and more involved in advocating for our clients because they're still denying. So they're still denying our folks, even when the ALP referral letter is sent, because people are unaware. But once I get involved, it's usually oh, okay, they back off, and usually it's turned into an approval.
Can you help me understand just a little bit more about the process itself? So how does an individual find out about the program, or do they even know about it? Or is it something where the county identifies the person and then passes along a referral? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so the tenants may not know, or the program participants may not really have a lot of knowledge around the ALP, but their case managers do know.
Okay.
So all of these, the residents that are in this program, or I should say the members, have case managers. Because I would love to have other housing programs in the ALP, but not all programs come with case management.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the landlord's biggest requests is to have case managers.
Sure.
They want that support, the case management piece.
So I get that they've got case managers. I'm trying to figure out how they find the program in the first place. Is it something that they have to seek out themselves, or is it something where the county finds them through some means?
So when our shelter partners, folks in DHS, when they're helping their clients look for housing and they're denied, then they bring them to me. They send a referral. We have a landlord letter, and it's sent to, as soon as the client is denied, as long as it's with one of our 4 ALP landlords.
And which are those? You said AHC.
AHC, APA, Wesley Properties, and Paradigm.
Okay.
If it's outside of those landlords, then we really can't really advocate. I mean, we can, of course, say you can appeal, but they don't have to follow that flexible screening that we have through the ALP.
Are you interested in adding more landlords to the partnership?
Oh, we're trying to recruit landlords.
Okay.
Yes, we are. We are always inviting landlords to come to our meetings and to come on board with us. But a lot of landlords are reluctant to do that. I mean, even AHC is kind of giving us a little pushback now.
Okay, I can certainly understand that. Sarah first, and then Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it on a fundamental level. So this program exists to place tenants who would otherwise be denied housing because of maybe past history, whether that's, financial or criminal, that's her word, but, and then to kind of provide a safety net for the landlords, saying hey, if you meet us halfway, we'll provide some backup should this go awry. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly. That's exactly how it works.
Okay. That's helpful. This has been really helpful. And so since 2017, there have only been, I think you said 28 claims. Is that right?
There has only been 20, I think it's 26 claims. 26 claims since since we started. Now let me take that back, 16.
Okay.
It's 16 claims. I'm thinking of the 28% that was denied. So 16
Gotcha.
claims. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to get a sense of like how well this was working. And 16 claims to me seems very low, which I think insinuates that the program, I mean, like at its core is doing what it set out to do, which is provide housing to folks.
Right.
Would
So
you agree?
So out of the 153 referrals we've actually had 110 of those that were approved. And so to have only 16 claims, yes, that's pretty low. So
15% probably or a little less. So
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I would say our case managers are doing a great job with, providing those supports to the clients.
Andrew?
I guess I didn't see any demographic data, so is this solely for individuals who are seeking a residence, or is it for a head of household in a family that are seeking the residence?
It can be it's mostly individuals, or it could be two folks in the household. But most of what I'm seeing mostly is that it's individuals.
Okay.
Yeah. And we do have demographics. We do track female head of household. We look at race, we look at everything. So I do have like a separate spreadsheet with all of that information on it as well.
Thank you.
Of course, I can say right off the top of my head, most of the folks that are denied, of course, are people of color.
Kristen?
What percentage of these people are getting have housing choice vouchers or part of the Arlington County's support system financially?
Okay, good question. None of them are housing choice voucher clients or housing grants. All of these folks are from rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing. So they already have their own subsidy. So, like what I was saying earlier, I would love to have HCV folks and housing grant folks. However, they don't come with case managers. So what our promise to landlords is that these folks have the case management piece. So this is why I'm constantly thinking how we can incorporate housing grants and housing choice voucher clients, because they have issues too with their credit and other things like that. But I can't figure it out yet because we don't have case managers. We don't have the staff that can handle that.
You mentioned that there were sometimes denials, even when a referral letter was provided. What happens after that?
I reach out to the managers. If I can't get anywhere with the property managers, I go to the regional managers or to the VPs. And usually when I take it to that level, the client is usually approved.
And that's because of the memorandum of understanding, essentially, right?
Exactly. And it's usually when it's denied in the leasing office is because someone didn't know anything about the ALP.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really interesting and informative. Any other questions or comments or thoughts from commissioners? I'd love to help in some way if there's anything that you can think of that the TLC can assist with, because it seems like a very good program. It's one of those that I love to see as the chair of the TLC, because it's like that. It's a good synergy between the county and the tenants and the landlords, just trying to get the best interest for everybody. So, I mean, if there's anything that comes to mind now or later that we can do in terms of like publicizing it, I mean, certainly we can, it's possible we can talk about it more if we get public comments that's related. How would we get someone into the program, or is that something that's out of our control more or less? Like, can we refer someone into the rapid rehousing and then they get a case manager and then they, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. They,
So
as long as they're coming from like the shelter or, and they're getting rapid refund, they're coming from rapid rehousing, we can accept them in the ALP or permanent supportive housing. It's got to be, unfortunately, just those two.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything, and you don't have to answer about this right now either, but we consider legislative priorities every year. Is there something that either at the state level or at the Arlington level that would be helpful to the program that we can consider advocating for?
Well, I tell you what we're doing right now is we're doing Jennifer and I, we're doing a program review, and we're having discussions with all of our landlord partners. And so what we're going to do is once we finish with these discussions, we'll compile everything together and just, kind of look and see what what we need to do. And then we can definitely come back and give you guys the feedback from the landlords.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting on multiple levels for us. So yeah, let us know, get in contact with Rolda or myself or Hector, and we'll make that happen. But thank you very much for coming.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next, we were supposed to have a rent analysis report discussion. It seems he's not arriving. So that takes us directly to, well, I see Rolda, you made it home safely. I don't know whether you're listening or not, but I'm glad you made it. Oh, there she is.
Hi, Rolda.
Good to see you. You're muted, Rolda.
Yes, hi. Still getting back into the hang of everything, but yes, I am back. Made it home, made it back. So thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping on, even when you probably could have shirked it. And so yeah, I think we'll table it, and I guess just. Rolda and Hector, can we ask for a reschedule maybe to February? I'm not sure what our agenda looks like totally yet, but
yeah, we don't have anything of pressing for February at the time, so certainly. Was Russell not able to make it today?
Apparently not.
Hector?
No, he wasn't able to connect.
We talked about New Year's resolutions last week, but not the presentation.
Okay.
The other item I think we had on the agenda was subcommittee reports. As I understand it, none of the subcommittees have met yet this year. So I just want to do a quick pulse to make sure that we're getting those scheduled. I can't recall who's
There's
heading
one
up.
scheduled for Monday.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. I need to be let know if there's something scheduled.
The official invite has not gone out.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Great. Thought you guys were cutting me out.
There was a pulse check on a day.
Okay.
And I think Rolda was planning on sending it when she got back.
Oh, fantastic.
Right. So the date has been set, so we have a meeting date and place. We just need to get an agenda together, and that should be out hopefully within the next couple of days. So you will have that by Monday, right, Emily?
Yeah, I sent you the agenda, so it's waiting for you in the inbox.
Okay,
Great.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. And then the other subcommittee, I think Ryan is heading that up, and as I understand it, he's still on Amtrak on his way back from New York, or like in transit from Amtrak. So his train was delayed pretty heavily. So I'll connect with him separately after this. But Are there any other thoughts or questions about the subcommittees or any other commission business? Otherwise, I shall release you early.
Oh, wow.
We have the call summary report on the agenda too.
Yes,
Which
Did
one?
we already talk about that?
the year-end calls report, that's me.
Oh, great. I'm sorry. I missed it. Didn't write it down.
They can share this. Everybody receives.
Do you want to come to the table?
That's not the one, sorry. I have,
Does Kieran have any comments?
I'm not sure if he's, because I know he's dealing with like a
Yeah.
disaster.
The water right
And it's always like the struggle with those virtual meetings. I'm like,
Yeah.
What's going on?
yes, I'll get it now. Okay. That's still not that one, sorry.
You got too many reports.
Yes, I put them somewhere, but it's,
oh, Hector's pulling up the report for the Markov departments. Could we get a update closer to when they start moving to see how that process went?
Yeah, I think we could request it. I'll make a note of it and
Because I know that's phase one, so to
Yeah.
see what went right and wrong in the first phase.
yeah,
I mean, I have full faith in
sure.
the property manager. It seems like they've thought everything out, but just in case, because.
I know Hector is like
Okay.
actively managing that program, so usually if something bubbles up, then
I-
it's on through him, but I'll make a note to reach out separately.
I have this, I did the report for 2023 in 2 pages because unfortunately what it gives us is by quarter, and if I try to get the whole year, I will get 2 years, fiscal years. So that's why you receive two halves, and the first one is January to December. This gives you basically the number of calls we have received for tenant landlord. We have 3 categories. They're at the beginning of a lease. We have them during the lease and at the end of the tenancy. So we can see here that we receive calls from either landlords or tenants. We have them separated by those categories. And also we have them separated by if they are subject to the VRNTA, although all of them are subject now to the VRNTA. But the ones that are non-subject in this figure are landlords that are not complexes, they're independent landlords. So as you can see, for example, we have received calls from tenants, a total of 10 calls about applications. We received 1 call from a landlord that was in regards to fees. the fee charged or not, and they're saying, we received one call from a tenant in regard to fees. We received, for example, questions about breach of lease, eviction, long lease. It covers something that it's more non-specific. For example, it could be, what are my rights? What can I do in regards if the landlord do this? So it's the more wide aspects of it. It mostly refers to the law. Now, I put them also on law and lease when they have different questions or they're more covered, not only one specific. We have questions about rent increases. Most of those questions come from tenants, as you can see. And we have questions about security deposits. Now, we have questions about eviction at the beginning, no, during the tenancy and also at the end of tenancies, because people that have entered the tenancy and were evicted are also calling in that regard, like you can see in this group. So this gives us a total of calls and what are the better groups of questions we received. Most of the questions are during the tenancy, mainly for breach of lease or long lease. We have very few that refers to maintenance. The ones that are without the referral to code are mostly for pest control. The ones that are referral to code are mostly heat or air conditioning, because that's something that they can do.
Pest control, you can't refer that to, that's not code enforcement.
No, I refer them mostly to DHS under their vector control. It's under public health, and sometimes I mentioned they could contact code enforcement, but it's not truly a referral because there are certain parameters they can go to. I tell them to contact code enforcement in areas where they can make sure the halls where they are gaining entrance can be covered. But in general, apartment complexes work very, very quickly on that, and there's no need for code enforcement, but I mentioned it. Vector control, it's the biggest issue there because they go and check that the structure outside in the common areas are covered and pests are not coming from the surrounded neighborhoods or areas or from the sewers. So it's better to refer them to the Department of Human Services because that inspector will work with the landlord and will cover more than only one unit.
And so these calls, what number are people calling that they come to you or housing or?
As you can see, we have like in the first group we have like 326.
Yeah.
And the other one is 360. So I can say we receive 680 calls from.
My question is like, where are people finding the number? Like, is this the number that's on the website? And so
it's on our webpage. We distribute cards or advertise in complexes. When we do seminars or classes, we distribute it. It's always there.
So I just want to clarify, they're calling Arlington Housing, or like who, like which division of Arlington are they calling?
They're calling the Department of Community Planning, Housing and Development, Housing Division, Housing Services Section.
Okay.
Is it 703-228-3765.
Okay,
This is general housing.
got it. All right.
Using the number when we did the presentation on flyers, that's the number.
Right.
And that's the email too. There is an email that it goes to. You can see it there too.
So do calls consider like forms submitted through the website?
Yeah,
So that's considered a call?
All these are calls.
And an email is also considered
Yes.
a call? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was in a different spreadsheet or not. Do you collect the property and then also equate the calls back to, and collect that data and look back at the year?
This is a general one, but in the calls, if they give me the name of the property, I add it. And I can create a different report. That's the one using the names. Not all of them want to give the names.
Sure.
Sometimes they give me addresses, sometimes they don't give me anything. They don't even give me their names. They just want to ask a question because a lot of times they're afraid of
Retaliation.
Yes. When I do get the names, sometimes I share that with my colleagues, for example, the ones that do inspections on affordable units. But rarely people give me their names of the complex.
How often, if at all, do you or whoever's answering the phone refer them to TLC or public comment?
Not too often. I can say that I did tell a lot of people, depending on what's the circumstances, to come to the commission. Because I thought there was something that was important for you to hear, even though you may not do anything. Like that client that came with the daughter.
Sure.
And I referred to others. I told them to come.
Okay.
But not all of them, because that's something I can answer quickly, or they don't need to come.
And the data, this specifically, and the linked, like where applicable, someone has revealed what property they're talking about or which management property they're talking about. Can we get access to that?
I can make a list, but it's not very big because you receive it. I can show the list of the complexes and what's the call about.
Okay.
So Dave, what would be the point of that?
Well, we've been talking about the new subcommittee putting together and cross-referencing like all sorts of calls from across code enforcement and cells, polling, so that we get a better idea of if there's some bigger actions that we can take because of trends.
Well, the only reason I ask that is because, like, for example, just because somebody has a pest problem, right, and they don't know how to handle it and they call here instead. I mean, I was on the train just now, as you know, and I got a report of some roaches in an apartment that we own in Alexandria, so don't get worried. And we're gonna go treat like tomorrow or Friday, I guess. I mean, like, bugs happen, stuff happens, things break, so just because you see 283 calls doesn't mean that like there are 283 like intractable problems that a landlord needs to be investigated for, right? And then that's gonna make, anyway, I'm just saying that maybe let's not assume the worst for every one of these things, and some of them, as I heard Hector describing them, seemed like a lot of them were questions about like, what do I do if, or I have a question about that.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I just don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, not at all. And we're not forming the Inquisition or anything.
I just want to put it on Facebook, call out different landlords.
As long as they're not-
This is not you or me.
I think if there's
Or
someone
you-
to know that there's a big problem in a building, that's very important.
No,
And that
so-
would be worth publicized, I think, if I were a landlord, I mean, a tenant, I would want to know before I go rent at the Serrano that they never, fix their rodent issue. I think that's very different than, I think there's a medium here.
Yeah, I think there's a frequency pattern to it. Like if you get out of the 200 or so that are there, and 100 of them were just one property over the time span of a year, then it's like, okay,
Right.
that's something to look into. But if it's sporadic in like January and December.
But what's the complaint about too, right? If it's a
Yeah.
question about, because for example, if there's a higher proportion of, let's say subsidized tenants at a particular particular property, and they have a higher tendency to ask questions about their lease terms because they speak a different language or they're from whatever the reason is, right? That doesn't put.
And not all of these are complaints. We treat them as
So that's my point.
complaints.
Right.
And sometimes general question like rent increase. They're increasing my rent. It's legal.
Yeah.
I think the amount of people who come to speak before us is indicative of the fact that they're solving most of the problems, but I just, love to see trends.
No, so just to give you like where my head's been at, and we've been talking about this over the last couple of months, particularly when we saw those poll numbers from Saul, and this is sort of the genesis for putting together this new subcommittee. TLC housing, Arlington in general, was kind of blind when it came to the Serrano for a long time, for like an unacceptably long time. When we probably had some data in our hands that just because different parts of Arlington weren't talking to each other and compiling it, it was let to become a much bigger and worse beast for everyone involved. I think it's probably safe to say. AHC didn't want that to happen. And I think that it's possible that earlier intervention would have avoided them having a ton of bad press and having a huge report written about them. So I'm not talking about forming an inquisition, but I do think that if there are some trends that we can identify through the subcommittee, when we can privately correspond with the landlords and say, hey, what's going on? Like, we're just gathering information here, but we've got a lot of X, Y, or Z. I think that's a perfectly reasonable use of TLC time.
I guess my question is what you end up doing with the data.
Having
the data is good. I agree with you. If it's, so the HC thing is an example, a great example.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, I find that we focus on as a commission, in the few years that I've been involved, is that we're very heavily focused on subsidized properties like, ARPA or AHC properties. But that's just a small sliver of the overall. I mean, we're a tenant landlord commission for the entire county.
Right.
And most of the county housing stock for rental is private and market rate, right? It's not subsidized. And so, not that I'm calling for all kinds of intervention on everybody. I'm just saying that, that whether you're paying market or you're paying a subsidized apartment, like, you deserve to have a quality place to live and not be, all of the things that we know we want for housing in the county, right? And so you just got to be careful about when we sort of publish stuff and lead people to a conclusion that may not be the real conclusion. That's all. I have no. I'm not running the subcommittee, first of all. Second of all, I'll probably provide input because I think it's important. But I don't. I mean, maybe publishing is the answer. Maybe it isn't. That's something that would be voted on, I think, in the TLC and discussed and gone through at the subcommittee level before it even came to a vote here. So I think that. In my mind, it's always been more about reaching out, figuring out what the problem is, and solving it. And it doesn't have to be this big, public pronouncement from the TLC, like, don't go rent here.
Yeah, I would.
And I don't want to punish anybody, but we do want to get results. And one of the things I think we do really well, or optimally speaking, is we coordinate with other parts of Arlington that can get things done. And it doesn't have to be this, a trumpet announcing it, but, we do get things done, especially when public comment comes here. And so why don't we take a deeper look at the data we have already and, compile it and figure out if there's anything else to be done. That's just my thought process, but.
I think one of the things that could come from this would be helping the county and the various programs within the housing division know what type of training to put out there. Whether it be, and where to put our resources. Do we need more inspectors? Do we need more caseworkers? Do we need to have more educational programs for new managers? And, whatever it is, whatever we find out, because I mean, when you're well informed and educated, everything's a lot easier.
To me, that sounds like a recommendation that we make to, our council liaison, because don't take this the wrong way, Hector or Rolda, but I found, in our interactions in the late summer and fall with the housing division and stuff about the stuff they were doing with the website and stuff like that, and we kind of had a similar path, and it just seemed like, we're all volunteers, right? We're all just sort of citizen volunteers in this commission, whereas they're professional housing staff or whatever the county department is, and we're supposed to be advisory, whereas they do this full time. And I think that providing a suggestion to staff is fine. I don't know how far it'll go. If it comes down from the council, from the county board, to staff, this is something that we think you should do, because all those things, Kristen, that you just mentioned are tied to money, right? And I don't know any housing staff that doesn't want more inspectors.
Right, but if we have the data to show them, if we put it together.
Yeah, I think oftentimes what we run into, in my view, in my time here, is we run into this problem where we don't know enough to make like a strong recommendation. And I think that we should start being more aggressive about actively getting the information to make good recommendations.
Have we ever educated ourselves doing like ride-alongs, so to speak, with an inspector? Of course, that would be on our own personal time, but maybe one of us goes like, okay, this is our day. We'll do like an hour with them and see what they do.
Code enforcement?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Can I make a suggestion for that? Because I ended up doing kind of an informal ride along, because I volunteered until this fall for Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
And by definition, they go to lower income residents, disabled residents, elderly residents. And I got a huge swath, it's funny because a lot of them were to Barcroft.
Yeah.
And so, I've been now in probably 3 dozen Barcroft buildings delivering meals, bringing stuff into their units, and you get a real sense for what's going on in those. And it doesn't take more than 2 or 3 minutes. And so maybe that's a pitch for Meals on Wheels volunteering. No, but I'm serious. Actually, it was kind of an eye-opening thing for me to do that, because the only buildings I go into are mine, right? Yeah. And mine look awesome. So, but look, it's even. Every property is going to have some issue at some point, right? And so it's not fair to. But if you see a consistent trend, and if you were to so I don't know, if you consider a volunteer thing like that, I think you'd end up doing kind of a double duty. You get the benefit of both.
To Ryan's point, I think we also, we don't have the information. Maybe we can't get it, but if we had this information on how many calls we received, especially for a specific landlord, and then if it was resolved,
right?
You know what I mean? Or if there's a landlord out there that has 60 and they're all unresolved. I'd love to see that information. That'd be helpful. But just having the number of calls against a landlord, it's useless on its own.
Yeah.
But if you're going to tie it, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
It all starts with information gathering, which I don't think we do enough of.
We don't know.
And it's what the county board would ask for.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the first question I'll ask for.
And
what are the numbers?
And that's to Ryan's point, that's the way that you make a strong recommendation is you point to some data or you point to a report. I think that we can take a crack at it and see how far we get. Maybe there's because when we've talked with county staff and we've had various presentations, one of the biggest things that I hear is this sector has XYZ data and another has ABC, and the systems don't even talk to each other. So maybe there's even some systemic recommendations that we could make to make some of these systems work together and compile this data and then formalize it, and then maybe it becomes part of housing staff. I don't know where this is going to go, but I do think that it could be very useful ultimately. So yeah, that's the pitch for you guys to go to the Monday subcommittee meeting. Of course, people are always invited to go. Commissioners are always invited to go, even if you're not formally on the subcommittee. And Ryan, are we getting another meeting for the other subcommittee scheduled?
We need to.
Right. Let's let's try to get it before the February meeting so we can push that to a final process. No?
I want to be realistic with you. I can talk to you afterwards about my time commitments. After February, my time will hopefully get more free because these things. I mean, I've had ideas that I wanted to pursue. I know. The last 6 months have been.
I get it.
Interesting.
So Kira is on that,
Yeah.
And then who else?
It was Matt Royer, but then he's gone.
Right.
So it's Kira and Matt and me.
Okay. So
actually, did somebody volunteer?
No, but I'd be happy to join.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
That's easy.
Excellent. Maybe if your obligations are pretty heavy right now, Sarah or Kira can take the lead in at least getting something scheduled.
That's fine.
Whether or not you can make it or
we can do a meeting. I can't guarantee that I personally will be able to push the ball forward on some of the
I get it, yeah.
outreach flyer and stuff that we were going to do, but
right.
At least not until March 1. Then I can kind of re-engage.
Okay.
It's just fact of life.
So why don't the three of you talk after this over email in a respectful, non-illegal way?
Logistics are fine.
I can't call you names, and I guess we have to talk about dates.
Yeah, I don't want to do any mandatory sexual harassment or training during commission time. We already have long enough meetings. So with that, unless there's any other thoughts, I think we have our marching orders and good. Okay, can I get a motion to conclude the meeting?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. That concludes the meeting. All right.